you guys for coming. So this is my talk on Wikipedia and tips on communicating with what I call the hive mind of the project. So how many people here have ever tried to edit an article on Wikipedia? Okay. How many people here have tried to create an article on Wikipedia? Did it stick?
Yeah, I created the article for my law school.
Okay.
And but the article that exists now is basically nothing that I wrote because people have edited it. Yeah.
Okay, so she was saying that she created an article for her law school. Current version of the article is nothing like what she originally wrote, which is normal for Wikipedia. It's a constant flow. And normally at the talk, sometimes I have people come in, they say they created articles, but generally most of them, their articles didn't stick. And I would say on each day on Wikipedia, I haven't checked the statistics this week, but typically there's about 1,500 articles created per day on Wikipedia, about half of which are deleted within 24 hours. And one of the purposes of my talk here is to try and communicate to people how you can get your articles to stick, kind of paperweight them down so they don't get deleted. A lot of those articles that are deleted every day are crap articles. Somebody's creating an article about their dog, or the girl that's sitting next to them in class, or their car, and so they're articles that really should be deleted. But some of those articles are created by people in good faith, but just didn't meet the wiki standards and so got deleted. But you also have to keep in mind that articles are always deleted by a human being, and those human beings often get overwhelmed by the amount of spam that flows into Wikipedia, these hundreds of articles. So sort of like that Charlie Chaplin movie where he's on the assembly line and he's just, tweaking the bolts, and then he leaves it and he's still kind of tweaking everywhere he sees bolts. And often some of the administrators on Wikipedia get into that mode of delete, 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 and then they delete something that probably shouldn't have been deleted, but they're just so used to deleting all the spam. So to keep an article from having the flags that make it look deletable, the number one thing I could say is that sources. Wikipedia runs on sources. If an article has sources and references, it is less likely to be deleted. If it has no sources and references, it is very likely to be deleted. And there is some gray area, and I'll talk about that a bit. So my own history with Wikipedia was I started hearing about it in 2005 because I was tracking who was linking to my website, Elonka.com, and I started seeing links coming in from this wikipedia.org. And I got interested, I followed it back, and often Wikipedia was just crashing a lot back then, or you'd get the big banner saying there's problems with our servers, but eventually I got in, and I got very interested in the community. I was a general manager of online community at my game company, and the wiki community was like nothing I'd ever seen. I'd researched online communities all over the internet, but this Wikipedia community was unique. And I got very interested in it, and I ran for election as an administrator. Election's not the exact right word, but it's close enough here. And I got rejected. The community said, no, we don't want you. And I thought, well, that's interesting. And so a few months later, I ran again, and again I got rejected. And then I really got into the community dynamics. And several months later, I ran again, and it was one of the most controversial topics in Wikipedia history. They had a page called WP100, where they listed the time that anything in the community would get 100 or more members of the community participating in the discussion. And my run for adminship was listed on there. And it was a very close election discussion, but I finally made it as administrator in 2007, and here we are 7 years later, and I have not destroyed the project, so I think overall it's been a good thing that I'm a wiki administrator. I've made edits. This is a way that the members of the community, of the Hive Mind, kind of look to determine status of other people in the community. One of them is the number of edits that you have, and I have about 69,000 edits, last I checked. And also another way that they look, it's sort of like in a multiplayer game. How do you tell what someone's stats are? What's their level in the game? And so my level is 69,000 edits. My level of article creation is over 500, which is very high. I've also created what's called featured class articles. An article has levels within Wikipedia. It starts off as a stub, start class, B class, A class. going up to then what's called a good article, which requires some peer review, and then featured class article, FA, which requires a lot of peer review. It takes months to do usually. But if you can get an article to FA class, then it has the possibility of being featured on the Wikipedia main page. And there's quite a bit of competition for this, and to even have one FA star on your profile is considered quite a feather in your cap. To have 2 or 3 is considered quite a bit.
It's not on the slide.
Hmm?
You didn't. It's not on the slide.
I'll be discussing it in a bit. So this is a featured class article. That it says today's featured article. And so any article, in this case I just took a screenshot, I think about a year ago or so. So this was about the building of the World Trade Center, and any article you see there has had months and months and probably dozens of editors that have been working on that article to get it up to that level of quality. It has been scrutinized down to the level of the punctuation in the sources. If a source has a month is abbreviated in one source and is not abbreviated in another source, that might be a reason for it to be rejected as a featured article. So it's the highest level of quality that we can get. Now, let me come back just a bit. So I was going to go back and forth, but you can see at the top here there's tabs. So we have a main page, discussion, view source history, and watch. So every article on Wikipedia, every page on Wikipedia also has a discussion page, a talk page. And this is where the editors will discuss what should be happening on the main article page there. And as they say, you never want to see how laws and sausages are made. Wikipedia articles can be the same thing. There's a whole lot of activity going on behind the scenes. So this is an example of a discussion page. It'll be, people will create sections as they go. One person will post something and then someone else will indent and will post something else. And sometimes these discussions will go on for months and many megabytes of discussions. And sometimes you'll just see short sections like that. Then also you can go and you can see the history of a page. And this will show you, it's all transparent. You can see every single edit that was ever made to any article on the project, the date it was made, who made it, and then you can go and get some information about them as well. And for each edit, you can go through and you can do a diff on it, and you can see highlighted in red exactly what was changed. So sometimes vandals will come in, often vandals come in, and they'll insert like one extra word in one article thinking that no one will ever notice, but no, it's noticed very rapidly. We have bots that are scanning the project, so profanity in that is usually reverted and put back to an older version very rapidly. And other editors are just in what's called recent change control, and all they do is they check for every single new edit. Does it look legit or not legit or not? And it's like a big game of whack-a-mole, and they're going through and reviewing every change. Yeah, Scott?
If an article that you created is deleted, is that still in the history?
The question was, if an article you created is deleted, is it still in the history? Yes, though you need special privileges in order to be able to see it. So as an administrator, I can go through and I can go to a spot and it'll say, there was an article here. Would you like to see the deleted revisions? And then I can go and review those. And 99% of the time, that's what I can see. There are certain circumstances where members of the community that have advanced permissions called oversight can go in and remove even that, so the typical administrator can't see it. For example, if somebody tries to dox or go in and put someone's address and phone number in, then we could delete it out of the article, but it would still be in the history, but then someone could come in and even clean it out of the history at that point. I won't go through all of this in detail, just some, Wikipedia's been around since 2001, millions of articles in hundreds of languages. Comparing it to other sites such as Google, at the time I got this was from 2011, Google had close to 1 billion users, revenue of $23 billion. Compare that to Wikipedia with 400 million users, so half as much as Google, revenue of $20 million compared to $23 billion. So it's a lot of volunteers doing a lot of work. And there have been some offers over the years for people come in that want to purchase Wikipedia, and they've always been rejected. There's a very strong sense of identity within the community that we want to keep it free. We don't want it to be advertising supported, though there is, again, a little gray area. Sometimes we will license the database to someone else, saying, here's everything on Wikipedia, you can post it on your own site, you can post whatever ads you want there, which is why sometimes you might Google something and you see what look like 25 different mirrors of the same content from Wikipedia, because this content has been licensed out. Yeah.
That's always something that's made me curious, is why would another site want Wikipedia's content when people could just go to Wikipedia itself?
Why? Okay, so the question was, why would some sites want Wikipedia content when people can just go to Wikipedia itself? Specifically because they want to put ads on it. They know that there might be a hot topic that someone would Google, and there's a chance that their site would be pulled up. And if their site's pulled up, then they got some ad impressions right there. Also, some sites have it for other reasons. They want to provide information about a topic on their site, and Wikipedia is one of the best sources, and so they'll mirror the Wikipedia article, and they'll put at the bottom, this information was mirrored from Wikipedia, because Wikipedia has a good rep. It's not right all the time, and it gets vandalized a lot, but overall it's a good resource. So it is a limited resource, not in terms of it's finite, depending how you want to define finite. It's not like if you were to print everything on Wikipedia, that it would take over the size of a football stadium. This is sort of a reference that if you printed everything on like that thin paper like you get in Encyclopedia Britannica, how many volumes of Encyclopedia Britannica would be equivalent, and this is about it. So think about it like if you were in a university research library and the stacks, and maybe a couple rows would be about the equivalent of what's on the English Wikipedia, and then you'd add some more if you wanted to include the articles from the other projects. Also, the other language Wikipedias are not a direct translation of the English Wikipedia. Each language they have their own community, and they can really write what it is they want. So you could be looking at one topic and see the English Wikipedia, the French Wikipedia, the Hebrew Wikipedia, the Arabic Wikipedia, all on one topic, and get vastly different versions depending on which language that you were looking at. So it is a fast-growing project. You can also get numbers on the exact stats of each page. So this is called stats.grok.se. You could go there and you can type in any Wikipedia article name, and it'll tell you how many people are viewing it each day. So in this case, I said in the month of May of 2009, the article called Jerusalem, how much traffic was it getting? And getting about 3,000 to 5,000 hits per day. Some articles will only get 1 or 2 hits per day, or 0. So the amount of traffic varies drastically. Now, what are readers of Wikipedia looking for? This is showing the different languages. So from the left, we have English, Chinese, Japanese, French, German, Russian, Spanish, and HI. Anyone remember what HI is?
Hindu?
Okay. And so you can see, for example, that on the English Wikipedia, the biggest section is for pop culture, geography, current events, history, culture, sex. You know, the Chinese Wikipedia, pop culture is big. They also like history, a larger section of people who are researching about sex on Wikipedia. Then you go to the Japanese article, or Japanese Wikipedia, it's almost entirely pop culture, health, a little bit of sex and geography. I like in the French one, French Wikipedians are researching geography, pop culture, culture, history, politics, sex. They don't go to Wikipedia to learn about sex. It's just not something they need.
For homework.
Turn your computer off.
So if there is a disagreement, and I'm just going to talk now about the English Wikipedia. So let's say that someone goes in and they write that this building was red, and then someone comes in and they change the article, say no, the building was blue. So now it's red, it's blue. So they're now in what's called a revert war. And there are some policies on Wikipedia. There's one that's called the 3 revert rule. If you revert the same article to something 3 times in 24 hours, you're blocked from the project. No questions. It's a sharp, bright line. So sometimes experienced members of the community, they'll revert like twice, and they're like, okay, I guess we got to talk about this. Revert more than 3 times, you're going to be blocked for at least 24 hours, sometimes longer. But let's say that you have a couple people and they're not finding a compromise. They're not finding a middle ground. Well, there's no ruling body on the project that's going to say this is the way the article should be. Instead, the way the culture works is by consensus. Members of the project who are working on an article are expected to discuss things in good faith and try and find a way of writing the article that is acceptable to everyone who has an active interest in the article at that time. And so the articles are not supposed to be written from one point of view, they're supposed to be written from all points of view. They're supposed to take a neutral point of view, and they're supposed to reflect different views out there, and then it's a policy called undue weight, neutrality, that if there's multiple views of a topic, the Wikipedia article should represent all these significant views in the proper proportion to how they're represented out in the mainstream culture. So again, Wikipedia is supposed to reflect what published sources are saying and not try and promote some kind of new point of view. If some editors, they still don't agree on it, they can go through a request for comment, they can go through mediation, but if they still cannot come to an agreement and it's becoming disruptive to the project because there's much angst in a certain topic area, it can go up to the highest level of review, which is called the arbitration committee. This is, ARPCOM is several members of the community who are elected annually. They're all volunteers. And it's a very time-intensive process. They serve a term, could be 1, 2, 3 years, and they will review these things. Now again, they will not be deciding how the article should be written. They're only going to look at the behavior of the editors involved. So if, for example, there's an article on topic A, and there's 20 editors who are debating, arbitration committee is going to look and say, are all 20 of these editors discussing things in good faith? Are they open to compromise? Are they open to consensus? And usually what's the case is there's going to be 2 or 3 editors in there who are not. They've got one point of view, and that's what the article is going to say, and they don't care what anybody else says. So ARPCOM will then say, okay, these editors are now no longer allowed to edit in this topic area for a period of time or sometimes permanently. And often that's all that's needed is to take out a couple of those editors who are not open to compromise, and then the rest of them can work together to craft something more long-lasting. Is there a question? Okay. This was just an example of cases coming up. So recently closed cases, Scientology was one of these topic areas. The West Bank, Judea and Samaria. So other cases that have come up, anything to do with Eastern Europe is often a hot spot, just as it is in the real world. Anything to do with paranormal phenomena, pseudoscience, cold fusion was a big topic for a while. And the areas where people come in with very strong opinions and they're not very interested in discussing things in a way that leads to consensus often has ARPCOM taking a look at it. But now ARPCOM has kind of designated certain areas as an understanding that they are hot spots. Anything to do with Eastern Europe. And they've authorized the administrators of Wikipedia, such as myself, to kind of go in and use what we call discretionary sanctions. So I could go to an article and I could see they've been yelling at each other for 6 months about this. I see 1 or 2 editors that don't appear to be arguing in good faith. I can warn them. If they ignore the warnings, then I can have the authority to remove them. There's a lot of oversight there, and usually a lot of angst, but it is something that administrator has the right to do. Another way the community communicates is a newsletter, online newsletter called The Signpost, which will talk about recent ARPCOM cases that have closed, and other, maybe Wikipedia's been in the mainstream news. On the English Wikipedia, we have about 1,400 administrators, and the things they can do, they can block and unblock users, delete or undelete pages, see the deleted histories, as you were asking about, protect and unprotect pages. So if you see a page where it says editing of this page has been restricted, that's probably something that an administrator did. So the perception is often that these administrators are like senior academics who are chosen for their people skills and their wisdom. This is not true. Often these administrators are teenagers or people who have lots of free time, maybe people who are on medical disability for some reason, but they have the time to spend on Wikipedia, and so they become administrators. This is a self-reported survey of the kind of people that participate on Wikipedia by gender, so again, male and female, age, kind of describe the level of education, so PhDs, there are some people with PhDs and masters, but primary, there's a large portion that are primary school educated. That. If you want to see articles that are in dispute, there is, or at least was, a site called WikiRage that would list articles that were in these rapid-fire revert wars. And anybody here an administrator or want to be a Wikipedia administrator? Didn't think so. Okay. So if you want to edit the project, one of the first things I do is say, create a user page. You want to create an identity and build networks with other Wikipedians. Indicate which topics you're interested in editing and help out. And don't necessarily jump into a hotly contested article, but there's a lot of stuff that needs to be done behind the scenes. There'll be articles that are tagged as needs cleanup. Something isn't formatted right. A disambiguation page has been created in some weird way. Or someone came along and created an article that said, Chief Zudad was the 1400 head of this tribe. And then they list a source, but they didn't do any bolding, they didn't format it, it just, boom, text there. So the article didn't get deleted because it looks like it might be worthwhile as an article, but it really needs another editor to go in with the mop and bucket to go and clean it up. But in general, if you want to edit an article, go ahead, be bold, as they say. The worst that can happen is that someone reverts the edit that you did. No harm, no foul. You will not get in trouble for putting something in good faith that then gets reverted. But the best way to keep from being reverted is to cite your sources. So if you want to participate in the content creation of Wikipedia, I would say start with the source. Get a book from a reputable publisher, Oxford University Press, New York Times, an article, Time Magazine. Find a factoid in there that you think is an interesting factoid. Find a place to insert it on Wikipedia. Go in and edit, insert that factoid, and then after it put, here's the source. Source, New York Times, May 10th, 1935. That's a way to make a legitimate edit, and it's very unlikely that it will be reverted. It's possible, a dispute might come up, but more likely than not, it'll stay. This talk here was originally supposed to be a workshop, so there were instructions to go ahead and bring your laptop. So if anybody wants to edit a Wikipedia article, or they want my help, you know, how do you change this, how do you format that, I'm happy to help you at the end of the talk. Right. So in general, again, be bold. If you see something wrong, fix it, preferably with a source. If you see something unsourced that you want to remove, if it's really bogus, just go ahead and pull it. If you think, well, it might be right, and there's no obvious source there, then tag it with a fact tag. If there is a source there and you still think it's wrong, we'll go look at that source. What's the source? Is it from an Oxford University Press book? Well, then it's going to be very difficult to remove from Wikipedia without some sort of discussion. Which doesn't mean Oxford University Press is always correct, but what you might want to do is find some other source that says, okay, this is wrong, and then you can remove it and say, okay, I'm changing the source on it. Or you could go in and say, well, this house is red. According to Oxford University Press, this house is red, but according to Cambridge University Press, the house is blue. And that way both viewpoints are represented in equal proportion. Right. An exception here is if you're reading an article that is about a living person. There is a very highly respected policy on Wikipedia called BLP, Biographies of Living Persons. If you see something that is wrong, incorrect, you don't need to go through hoops, just remove it. And all you need to do is post in the edit summary, BLP, and no one's going to touch it. No one with any sense on Wikipedia is going to touch it, because BLP is like the third rail. If someone goes and re-adds incorrect information to a biography of a living person, they are probably going to get blocked from the project really fast. Okay. If you have an article about yourself and it's missing information, if it's something simple, your birth year, company you're working for, it's probably okay to just go in and change it. The safer thing is to go onto the top page of the article and say, here's information that should be added to this article, and here are sources for it. Maybe other editors will do it, maybe they won't. For my own article, sometimes there's an article about me on Wikipedia. Sometimes I've gone to the top page and said, this is wrong, can someone change it? No one changes it. I'll wait 6 months or so, and then I'll write a draft of the article in my user space, and I'll go to another editor saying, can you please copy this correct draft in place of the main article? And they'll review it, and then they'll copy it in there. That way I'm not getting dinged for self-promotion. I'm just trying to keep everything fair, square, and legal. If you're doing something on the project and you add this factoid, and if a dispute comes up, somebody reverts you, somebody calls you a name, something, stay calm. There are mechanisms to deal with it. What we tell people is focus on the talk page and discuss the article, not other editors. That's the quickest way to make a dispute kind of spiral downhill, is when it gets into what's called ad hominem attacks. Focus on discussing the article, not the people. Also, don't work from your personal knowledge. Cite sources. Don't say, well, the house is red because I know it's red and you're an idiot for not realizing it's red. Say, according to Oxford University Press, the house is red. And here are the sources that agree that the house is red. Also, when you choose sources, you want to choose reliable sources. And there's a lot on Wikipedia for determining what's reliable. A reliable source is a source that has a reputation for fact-checking and accuracy. So, New York Times, Washington Post, Wall Street Journal. Blogs are generally not good sources. They generally don't have a lot of review, fact-checking, and accuracy. Message board posts, not good sources. Someone's personal website, generally not a good source in most cases. If someone posts on their personal website, I've changed jobs, I've moved to Virginia, you could use that as a source. Unless there's another source saying they live in Delaware, and someone's saying, no, I moved to Virginia, then you're going to go with the reliable source rather than the person's personal website. If the dispute continues, try to find consensus. And I describe it as the pizza principle. What are we going to have for dinner tonight? We're going to have pizza. Half the room says, I want mushroom pizza. The other half of the room says pepperoni pizza. You duke it out? No. You get a pizza that half's mushrooms, half's pepperoni. That's consensus. You've done something that's pleasing everyone. Everyone's willing to go along with that. So you don't want to decide a dispute. You want to describe a dispute based on the outside sources. So, did I say sources enough? Sources, sources, sources. Wikipedia runs on sources. The disputes are resolved by sources. Real-world controversies where sources disagree often does get reflected on Wikipedia, but eventually things kind of calm down. We take the long view. There's no deadline. There's a lot of politics going on behind the scenes. And just remember, the communities are anti-authority. So if you want to get people yelling at you, one of the quickest things to do is go in and say, hi, I'm a PhD. I know what I'm talking about. Here's the way the article needs to be written. Won't fly with the wiki community. People will say, well, you need to cite your sources. And if the PhD says, I don't need to cite sources, I'm a PhD, the question's going to come up, how the hell did you get to become a PhD if you don't know how to cite your sources? So, all right. So, yeah, I think I've kind of covered that. Another question that often comes up is how to get an article about a particular topic on Wikipedia. Someone says, I'm an artist, I've been showing galleries all over the world. Why isn't there an article about, or I tried to create an article about myself and the article was deleted. To which the response is, word that starts with the letter S.
Sources.
Sources, okay. So if someone's an artist and they're notable, there's going to be sources about them. If there's no sources, there shouldn't be a Wikipedia article. So someone says, but I have all this art and it's selling everywhere. I'm like, well, go to your local West County Gazette and tell them to write an article about you. And if they won't, if you can't get your local West County Gazette to write an article about you, it shouldn't be on Wikipedia. Okay? If sources cover it, then it can be enough sources, then it can be on Wikipedia. Okay. Any questions? Yes?
You mentioned the various press, and would, say, a program for DragonCon be a suitable source?
Okay, would a program for DragonCon be a suitable source? what are we trying to source? What kind of information are you trying to put on Wikipedia that you would want a DragonCon program?
That you, for instance, gave a talk at
Okay.
DragonCon.
Okay, so the question is, Elonka has given a talk. We can prove that she's given a talk because she was at DragonCon. Can we use the DragonCon program as a source to put this information on Wikipedia? Yes, but the question then comes up, is it going to be challenged? So if one person just goes in and says, Elonka gave talks at DragonCon, ShmoocCon, PhreakNIC, blah, 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 and it's there in the article and nobody else cares, then it's probably going to stick. But as soon as somebody challenges it, that's when all these policies kind of kick in. So if someone else could come along and say, yeah, she was at DragonCon, yeah, there's a DragonCon program that says that she was at DragonCon, but didn't get written up anywhere else, so they're going to remove it as trivia or fan cruft. This happens a lot with television shows. General Hospital, soap opera. I like General Hospital. I watch it all the time. Some of the articles on Wikipedia, people will try and use Wikipedia to list, okay, and today Jason did this and Sam did this, and yes, it happened, and yes, it was in the shows, but it's a long bit of information that's not written up anywhere else. It's only interesting to fans, and someone else is going to come along and they're going to delete it. And they're going to be right to delete it. There's a list of things that Wikipedia is not. Wikipedia is not an indiscriminate collection of information. Wikipedia is not a news source. There will often be debates about how current can something be. And for example, let's say a UFO lands in the parking lot of Millennium Maxwell Hotel. We all run outside, UFO, we take pictures of it, we post them online, we run to Wikipedia, we run to the PhreakNIC article and say, Elonka's talk was interrupted because a UFO landed outside the Millennium Maxwell Hotel. 30 people have all witnessed this. Someone else could come along and they will delete it because there are no sources, no reliable published sources. Then you could get New York Times to say a UFO landed outside the parking lot. Then it can go on Wikipedia because now we have a reliable source. But until then, it can't be on Wikipedia. Yes?
Can you comment on some rates and controversy with the software upgrade that was voted down by the community but implemented by Jimmy Wales?
Okay, a software upgrade that was voted down by the community, but what?
But it was pushed into place on a decision by Jimmy.
Oh, okay. So Jimmy is referring to James Wales, one of the founders of Wikipedia. And there are some interesting debates that come along about how much authority does he have in the project and how much authority does the community have. According to Jimbo, the community has the authority. But every so often he comes down and says, no, I'm just going to do something differently. I can't say it's the right thing to do. If the community has, in my belief, the community is doing the lion's share of the work for free and has a lot of checks and balances in place to make the correct decisions for the community. But the crowd is not always correct. So sometimes you do need some sort of outside group to come in. I can't say that Jimmy is always correct either. So, yeah.
Just an aside, this isn't to troll your talk, but I just wanted to bring it up. If someone goes to Google and types in Wikipedia editors are, for the 5 autocompletes, 2 of them are Wikipedia editors are losers and Wikipedia editors are idiots.
Okay.
So I'm just sort of like, is it just so many people who are frustrated with the way in which they're trying to edit an article that didn't go their way, and so they're taking out their frustration, or is it something else?
I can't say for sure. I think you could probably do a lot of things so-and-so are, politicians are, farmers are. I don't know. I can't say why Google has that particular thing. But it is frustrating, though. If you go to Wikipedia, you create an article in good faith and it gets deleted, or you wander into a hot topic area unaware and make what you think is a perfectly reasonable edit, and then suddenly 5 editors revert you and tell you to go away. You're not allowed to edit their article. It happens. It's a big project, and Wikipedia can be horribly inconsistent. one topic area can follow a bunch of policies very rigorously, and another topic area on the same day cannot be following those policies so rigorously. I help people with their articles sometimes, and someone will say, well, my article was deleted, but here's this other guy, and he hasn't even written as many books as I have, and I have more sources, and he has hardly any sources. How come he has an article and I don't? I say, Wikipedia is horribly inconsistent. Somebody created an article for somebody. The article probably shouldn't be there, but no one has taken the time to go in and challenge it yet. When it does get challenged, that article will probably go away. Just the Hive. People are not buzzing in that particular part of the project. Run, Ben, run!
Are television news sources considered credible sources?
Are television news sources considered credible sources? That's a hot button. You know, if someone's being, sorry, go ahead.
Are some of the yes, some of the no, is there categories? Anything considered credible?
Again, it depends on how much it's going to be challenged. Generally, when a current event is occurring, and the only rapidly available news is what's on television news sources will be used. An earthquake just occurred at the New Madrid Fault. According to CBS News, blah, 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 blah. Then within the next couple of days, there's going to be printed sources, and people are going to take a deep breath, and they're going to relax, and you're going to get better researched, better fact-checked pieces. And then those sources are probably going to replace the TV news sources. One debate is whether if someone is a talking head on 5 or 6 news stations, does that then mean that they are notable enough to have an article on Wikipedia? They've been on the news 6 times. It would start coming to published, printed sources. But there's a lot of gray area when it comes to TV sources.
When I was in school, all my teachers, professors, they didn't consider Wikipedia as a reliable source. So do you consider Wikipedia a reliable source? And is there anything the community can do about that to actually change the mindset of professors, teachers?
So to the question, is Wikipedia a reliable source? I would say no. Because at any moment that you're looking at an article, you have no idea if it just got vandalized 5 seconds ago.
We're looking at the PhreakNIC article right now.
I kind of knew this was going to happen. Let's see.
Something may have just landed in our parking lot.
Okay, so what do we have here? Where am I looking? Oh, Elonka Dunin's talk was interrupted by a UFO landing in the parking lot. Okay. All right.
But they
Really a
didn't
reliable source.
They didn't link to your profile. That's
Yeah. Set up a redirect from Dunin to Dunin. Okay. All right. So now, as an administrator, I'm going to go in. Okay. So no one had edited the article since December 2013. Then November 1st, 2129. This is GMT. Somebody from an IP of 172.56.10.55 came in and made 4 edits. Why 4 edits? Okay, so let's see. The first edit, they were just changing some dashes for some reason. Let's see. And then they added Millennium Maxwell House Hotel. And then they decided Maxwell House instead of Maxwell House Hotel. And then they changed from Murfreesboro to Nashville. And then at PhreakNIC 18. So okay. So what's going to happen is, if I wanted to, I could just click undo here, and it would disappear very rapidly. Next, I'm going to hover over here, and I'm going to see, let me show me all edits that were made by this IP ever. All right.
All right.
And go to tab. All right, so this IP made 1 edit in December 2013, where they modified the total request live article to change a Britney Spears line from 1998. And they wrote corrected year, so maybe someone who had some experience with the project and then the 4 edits today to PhreakNIC. So,
Britney Spears fan?
sorry?
A Britney Spears fan.
Maybe. Hey, I have a link with Britney Spears. What's probably going to happen is
Sure it is, Johnny, sure it is.
this. You see this talk page? This is the discussion page for this, what we call an IP user. It's currently a red link. There's nothing there. Someone eventually it will depend how aggressive they want to be. They're going to edit. They're going to change that. What the IP did, and then they're going to come over and they're going to warn the IP user. And this is just a tool that I have here. So I could say warn, and I could say, and we have a template for vandalism, and I enter in PhreakNIC, and then I could add in an optional message, and then we put a message on this person's talk page.
It's somebody's phone though, so that IP's going to be given up.
True. But with enough warnings on a talk page, that IPs then going to be blocked. And if they then start bouncing IPs, then the entire block of IPs is going to be blocked. So there are mechanisms for doing it, and there's Tor nodes and but there are ways of dealing with this. We get this a lot from schools. Somebody who's bored in a school library will go in and vandalize an article, and so we even have templates for what's called school block, saying, let's see, there's levels. So these are standard disruptive editing. Looks like they're doing a test. They blanked an article. They added unreferenced controversial information about elderly persons, something defamatory, deliberate factual errors, frequent or mass changes to genres, image-related vandalism using improper humor, adding original research, so something without sources, or in unpublished syntheses of sources, censorship, ownership in lieu of templates, 3 for spam, 4 towards harassing other editors, removing templates. So it happens so often that it's like, okay. So, I don't know, I could go in and I could undo it for practice here, or we could just leave it and see if it's been fixed yet or not. So on recent changes, I'm going to close this. So going to recent changes. So these are showing all the, I'm going to show you a page that has the recent changes that were made to the project, to the English Wikipedia. And again, we're at 2143 GMT. So I'm running this off of Ben's phone, so.
Do you only see this if you're in the
Everything I've shown you so far is available to any editor. I have some extra tools, some extra preferences that I've turned on, but any user could do those. So this is the recent changes. These are all changes made to the project. Remember I said it was GMT 2144, so you can see 2143. So these are all within the last minute, and then 2 minutes ago, 2142. And I could hover over any one of these, and I could take, if I wanted to do recent changes patrol, and see what did someone do. Yeah, sorry, so someone deleted that. So this is an internal page wiki project. This is Hero Manual. Someone added a source here, good for them. Also, doing recent changes patrol, we look at who's making the changes. So these are the names. Dome Joe, Primer Gray, EP111. And here's Matthew Ferguson, 57. So Matthew Ferguson, the first thing jumps out, it's a red link. So this is someone editing the project that hasn't taken the time to create a user page yet. So that's going to be a red flag right there. Also, I could look at every edit that Matthew Ferguson has ever done. So he seems to be editing many articles, mostly related to Stoma, something medical. All right, okay, I didn't want to look at that picture. All right, so, but if someone has a history of making good faith edits, you're probably going to leave them alone. Here's Dome Joe. Take a look at what this person's done. Small edits to the article, I've Got Your Nose, which is a children's game in which one person simulates plucking the nose of another from their face. Okay, so is this, okay, so let's just take a look at this article. I don't know how long it's been there. Okay, we get this a lot. People will come up with a game and then they'll try and create art. So it's got sources. That's the first thing I noticed. I could go through and I could look at the history here. So the article was created actually several years ago.
How
Goes back.
frequently do you guys check the sources?
Sorry?
How frequently do you guys click on the sources for you to see they have them on the day?
That's a great question. And in general, no, I'm not going to check on the sources. Even as an administrator going into an area where there's a dispute, I'm probably not going to check on the sources because there's just too much going on. Unless there's a dispute between two editors that are getting really picky about a particular source, then I might read the source. There was an article about tree shaping, and where people modify the way the branches grow a tree, and they were really arguing about the exact meaning of a source and was it a reliable source. Is it something that was written by a reporter who'd written several other articles, or was it an interview with someone who claimed to be an expert? So those were cases I went in and read the source.
And it's just, I'm sorry, if the source used to be accessible, but no longer is, like if you had a link to a website on paper,
Mhm.
you moved the link on Wikipedia from that paper, but the website itself is no longer accessible.
Okay, good
Is that
question.
another source then?
Right. Good question. So the question was, if a source was on the web and it's no longer on the web, is it still considered a valid source? Well, we look at the URL of where it was. Was it reliable at the time that it was being used? If yes, okay, we can probably go to archive.org and dig up an old version of it. But coming back like to the DragonCon program question, if a source is something that was only temporarily available and is not available to other editors who are wanting to do fact checking, it's probably not going to be accepted as a source. You could have a source that's a perfectly valid, reliable source, but there's only one copy of it, which is kept in a safe in some tower in New York City. And even with access to the major New York libraries, you cannot get access to that source. It's probably not going to be allowed. I was in a dispute about something to do with medieval history, where somebody was pulling up more and more and more obscure sources in French, sources in Latin, to the point where when I was speaking in Washington, D.C., I was at the end of each conference, I was running down to the Library of Congress because they might have copies of some of these sources. And if something was not in the Library of Congress, I would argue it's not a legitimate source. It's too hard for other editors to go in and fact check it and verify it. Does that answer your question?
Yeah.
Okay. You have a question?
It was the same question.
Oh, okay. Also, currency of sources is also something that comes up, again, with this medieval history topic. We were writing articles about the Crusades. Well, there were historians during the Crusades who were writing about things as they saw them at the time of the Crusades. But then hundreds of years later, modern historians are saying, well, those historians were wrong. They were writing about what they saw, they were writing in good faith, but since then new information has come to light, and things didn't really happen the way that those historians wrote about it. And so Wikipedia is going to want to use the more modern sources, even though there are older sources. There's an 1800s French encyclopedia that could be sourced, and it was an encyclopedia, and it said certain things. However, more modern encyclopedias are saying, no, it's not like that anymore. So we're going to go with more modern sources.
When you were going down the list of reasons to reject something, one of the things you mentioned was original research.
Mm-hmm.
Suppose the original research had been published in recognized internationally circulated journal.
Mm-hmm.
Would that still be, and you still couldn't write about it, you'd have to do somebody else write about it or something?
Okay, sorry, can you rephrase the question?
Suppose you wrote an article that included some reference to original research that you had done, but your original research had been published in an internationally circulated chemical journal.
Mm-hmm.
Would that be acceptable?
It wouldn't be original research then, because I would be using as a source the published article. So the source is not me, the source is the journal.
Even though you published it?
Even though I published
Or
it.
you wrote it?
Yeah. I could write an article about PhreakNIC that would appear in, I don't know, Technical Conference Quarterly. I'm making this up, I don't know the source. But if it is a peer-reviewed journal, the assumption is that by getting, even though it's by Elonka Dunin in this journal, that other people have reviewed it and therefore it's gone through peer review. Therefore, it's a valid source. So yes, I could quote myself on Wikipedia. So I'm looking at the PhreakNIC article, where the latest edit is reverted edits by 172.56.10.55. So this is Kirby Kid did the reversion. Kirby is a rollbacker. He's not a total noober. He describes himself as a new user editor. He's got 2,390 edits, which is good, but he probably does a lot of vandalism control. He's been an editor since March 2007, and I'm going to look to see if he actually posted a warning. So I'm going to look at everything that Kirby Kid ever did. And so, let me see, yeah, so he's reverting. So he's on recent changes with control. He's reverting, posting a warning, reverting, posting a warning. So now you will see that 172, their talk page is no longer a red link. There's now something on that IP's talk page. I'm going to hop over saying, and he said, hello, I'm Kirby Kid. I want to let you know that I undid one of your recent contributions, the one you made with this edit to PhreakNIC, because it didn't appear constructive to me. If you think I made a mistake, if you have any questions, it's boilerplate. So they were very gentle about it. I was very gentle. They could have been much more strict about it. Okay, Scott. What's a rollbacker? A rollbacker is someone who has the privileges to do these kinds of things with rollbacking edits. If you misuse it, you show that you're not using it with good sense, you will have that privilege removed. Okay. It's a user right. It's a flag on the account.
A lot of newspaper articles are easy to reference, but some of them are behind paywalls like LexisNexis and things. But about, I guess I have two questions.
Sure.
How can, second question would be, LexisNexis, is there any way that regular people can do that without having an account? But then the first question was, what about magazine articles? Not all of them have been digitized, like old Bike magazine, Compute, things like that. Are scans of those, or if there's any way that you can link to old magazine articles as a source?
Absolutely. A source does not have to be online to be a legitimate source. It is perfectly acceptable to source 1922 New York Times without any link, without a PDF, without a picture, just saying this was 1922 New York Times. And then someone who wished to challenge it would have to go to the trouble of finding it. So you'd want to use sources where a reasonably diligent editor could find it if they had access to a major library.
So just a quick question about just the systems of incentivization for users of Wikipedia. Well, I guess, editors, just like that Kirby Kid, he's on some patrol, he's doing his duty to the community. What's the market systems at play getting him to continue what he's doing, in the sense like what he's getting upranked? I mean, he's getting better community feedback. He's getting closer to. He's getting in better regards.
Yeah.
What are the kind
Why would he do it? Why would he do it? Sort of like, what was it, Pony Boy who was up here in spandex, who was talking about how he just wants to go and be the superhero and protect people. It's people just enjoy doing it. That's what they enjoy doing it. And we have a word for some of them. It's called wikinomes. They get no real benefit from it. I mean, if you can look at their numbers and you can see that they've been helping with this. Wikipedia. Wikinome is a wiki user who makes useful incremental edits without clamoring for attention. This could be someone who's editing an article, who's doing vandal patrol. And this is an essay. It's kept because it's considered humorous. But yeah, we could refer to someone as a wikinome. I sat on a panel once where there was a wikinome next to me, and he kept referring to Elonka. She's a content creator. It's like, oh, she's a content creator, which is considered one of the higher status professions, races, classes on Wikipedia. But really, there's just so much work that needs to be done. Anything that anyone wants to help with is more than welcome.
Could you just move quickly back to the edit page where you had the list of edits down and just kind of look over?
The recent changes?
Yeah.
Okay.
So I noticed in red and green, we have like, what is that, point system? Are there points being awarded? Are there?
There's a number of edits, so I could.
Are those characters changing? The plus and minus numbers?
Yeah, the pluses and the minuses.
Oh, these are number of bits, number of bytes that were changed. Were bytes added to it or were bytes removed from it?
Oh, okay.
So there's no points that there is like that Wikinome essay. There is an essay called "How Wikipedia is Like a Multiplayer Game." That there's battle here. There's levels for a user, levels for an article. There are areas of the project, so an article could be thought of as a room that has entrances and exits. So it is something that can become very compelling. There's also this watch list at the top where you can specify certain articles that you're just going to keep an eye on. So these are articles that out of the 2 million odd articles on the English Wikipedia that I'm following. So I can hit my watch list and see, okay, Gamergate controversy, if anybody knows what Gamergate is. I'm kind of keeping an eye on that. Some stuff in the arbitration committee. This is the administrator's notice board, the Ebola virus, any article I've edited here. La Lucy, Ben, I keep an eye. Ben and I worked on that on one PhreakNIC here. And then this can become addictive because you'll make a change and then you'll hit your watch list. Has anything else been changed? Oh, look, that's been changed. I'm going to go look at that. Refresh the watch list. Oh, look, that's been changed. I'm going to go take a look at that. And it kind of, Wikipedia can expand and consume all available time and resources, as much time as you want to give to it. There's always something more to do. If I'm bored or if say I'm moderating a dispute and I feel myself starting to lose my temper and I need to calm down, I'll go find something to calm down. So this is disambig, all right? Or here's to do, things that I've got. So let's go to the disambiguation cleanup category. And here's my featured articles in the little green, good articles. And these are articles that just need something to be cleaned up. So I'm just going to pick one. Random. There are hundreds of areas to help, but this is one. So someone tagged the entropy disambiguation article as needing cleanup. So it's an entropy. These are different things that entropy could mean. Now, I can tell looking at this that it's not meeting the policy for how disambiguation pages should be formatted. For example, a disambiguation page should only have one link per line, and this one has 2 links. So someone needs to go in and clean up. A disambiguation page should only have entropy could refer to, and shouldn't have this stuff up there. So someone needs to spend time and just do these little things. And I'll do like 5 or 6 of those, like eating potato chips, and then I'm kind of calmer, and then I'll go on and I'll go do something else. But there are so many different areas. Let me see if I can find Wikification. No, I didn't do it. Okay, so let's try. This might work. Waiting. Okay. So to format, so there's places that just need help. So, and they talk about Wikinome, Wikihate. So this is just it went to a glossary page. And there's just a lot of things that need help. Articles with too few wiki links, Wikify project, there, that would be a good one. So this is a project that Wikipedians made that saying we need help going in and Wikifying articles, making the links right, making the italics right, making bold text properly, formatting the articles so that they match the Wikipedia guide to layout. little things. So whatever someone wants to help
So has there ever been any like studies?
I can hear you.
Been any studies done into whether or not the age of an article or fact actually kind of correlates to accuracy, or is that just kind of like an assumption?
Have there been studies about whether the age of an article correlates to accuracy? Maybe. I could probably go to another list of academic studies of Wikipedia. But I can tell you right now that it would depend on the topic area. So you could have, say, the Jerusalem article, which is always in some sort of form of dispute, or the article on Muhammad, very old article on the project. And there was a massive debate about whether or not to put a picture of Muhammad on that article. And so it depends how high profile any particular topic is. Any other questions? So anyone that wants to help out with the project, you're more than welcome. When in doubt, be bold, make the edit. Even if it's about a UFO, worst that's going to happen is you're going to get reverted. And if you have any questions, feel free to contact me directly. I'm happy to help tutor you on ways to get in there and make your edits stick. All right? Thank you for coming.